The original Force Unleashed was the best-selling Star Wars game ever, a title whose storyline was so important, so crucial to fans, that we largely overlooked the fact that its gameplay fell pretty flat after a short while. Enter The Force Unleashed 2, the sequel to the first and the game that was supposed to right all the missteps of the first. Sadly though, while I had high hopes for this game for months, fans of the series will likely be as disappointed as I was. The story doesn't deliver, it's surprisingly short, and the gameplay still feels far too repetitive to make it more than an okay way to spend a few hours. You once again play as Starkiller, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, who escapes his evil clutches to find Juno Eclipse, his lost love from the first game. If you haven't played the first game, I imagine you'll be able to follow the story, but the game definitely assumes player familiarity. The game starts out incredible. After opening up in the typical Star Wars fashion of rolling storyline, it's right to some great looking cutscenes where we get to see how Starkiller managed to make it into the sequel after dying at the end of the first. Visually, it looks fantastic. The enemies now get dismembered by lightsaber attacks, and the way the Force destroys and interacts with the environment looks really great. It also has some of the best animation and weather effects I've seen in a game in years. Combine this with the beautiful Star Wars musical arrangements, and it's a potent mix that'll make any Star Wars fan's lightsaber grow. While the gripping beauty and the music of the game never fades, the novelty of Starkiller's unleashed powers does surprisingly quick. Unlike the first game, Starkiller has access to the majority of his powers from the start, and what he doesn't have he gets in a matter of a couple of hours. This translates into gameplay where Starkiller simply murders everything he sees with ease, removing almost all the challenge on the normal skill level. Even on hard, the enemies aren't much of a challenge once you level your Force push. See Exhibit A. The combat's been revamped, insomuch as they vastly decreased the amount of enemy types, while also making how you fight them more specific. That sounds awesome on paper, but the way it's implemented really boils combat down to enemy X can be killed with lightsabers, while enemy Y can be killed with the Force. It's awesome for a minute, but loses its cool factor rapidly as you fight the same enemies in situations that are only minor variations of one another over and over and over again. The story could have been enough to make me love this game, but unfortunately it really isn't all that compelling, feeling shoehorned in for the sake of making another game rather than an important piece of canon like the first title. That ultimately won't matter though, because the game feels like it ends just when it starts developing into something interesting, taking me less than 6 hours to complete on normal. And despite its relative brevity, it still manages to place you in situation after situation that feel all too repetitive. Every time the game finds something potentially cool, like an interesting boss fight mechanic, it repeats it until you really have become a Jedi Master, which, contrary to the way it sounds, is actually pretty boring. Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 makes me sad. Starkiller's acting is great, and the story is ultimately passable enough that fans will want to play this game to its conclusion, but I'm hard-pressed to recommend this to anyone who isn't hardcore about the universe. I'm sorry to say it, but as Master Yoda might say, a good game, The Force Unleashed 2 is not. For more information about The Force Unleashed 2, go to IGN.com.